Hey everybody, it is Kellen Nitro for Nitromaniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited, and man, what a crazy evening this was on April 4, 2020. It was night one of Wrestlemania 36, the event too big for one night, held at the WWE Performance Center in front of a vacant facility due to the COVID-19 global pandemic and crises. The event was televised on the WWE Network pay-per-view for the first time ever on Fight TV as well. If you watched the show on Fight, let me know what you think of the service and put it in the comments below. I'm a big fan of Fight myself with the independent stuff, so it'd be interesting to see how the presentation went on the Fight side for a WWE card. I myself watched it on the WWE Network, live streaming all around the world, and probably some points in outer space as well too. But anyway, first it was Pirate Mania, then it was COVID Mania, but is it WrestleMania? Was it a WrestleMania show? Here are my first impressions and my breakdown of what I seen tonight on the network. It's so weird seeing build for this show with fans in the audience, but such is life. Prior to March 14th, basically, this was building for Raymond James Stadium in Tampa Bay. After March 14th, it's building for the WWE Performance Center in front of nobody, a closed set, but it still is what it is. It's the time of year, it's the magical time of year where it's the biggest card of the year. All the big storylines start to wrap up, and the show kind of remains as it is. Kickoff show is hosted by Peter Rosenberg and Corey Graves. They throw to promo a match on the kickoff show, but no announcement on whom it is. So a little bit of a botch, a foible there with the pre-tape. I'm not exactly sure. The rap video played during the pre-show, though, hyping Miz and Morrison as the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, because the SmackDown ladder match for the Tag Team titles was on night one tonight, is amazing. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'm sure they'll post it up on, the pre-show was on YouTube. It was streaming on YouTube as well as, WWE Network, you name it, various sources. So go to YouTube and go watch that rap video. It's hilarious. Opening contest, and this was the one match on the pre-show tonight. Drew Gulak taking on Cesaro of the Artist Collective. This is a SmackDown match, and two technicians from the East Coast indie scene open things up. Michael Cole calling this match solo from ringside, and again, much like Gulak's match at Elimination Chamber with Daniel Bryan about a month ago, this is another technical workshop with a guy that he can work with. Cesaro is crazy talented in the ring, and Drew Gulak is kind of his personality and that stuff this year in 2020. He's going to be the breakout performer of 2020, I think. I think he'll be one of the guys that really gets a push into 2021, and this time next year will be put in, if not a semi-main event scene, maybe, definite mid-card scene on one of the brands, because the dude is just crazy talented in the ring and is getting mega over with the fan base online. At least it's kind of hard to tell, with no fans in the building or anything, what it would be live, but that's good for him. That gives him time to package him and see where this Bryan Gulak storyline goes. Cesaro keeps trying to hit the neutralizer, but he doesn't get it, but ends up landing a UFO finisher. Yes, the no-hands airplane spin out into a UFO for a free count. Haven't seen that since the early 1980s and all the tape trading that I did back in the 2000s. That's insane. The runtime on that one is 4 minutes and 25 seconds. Wish it was a little bit longer. Wish they had a little bit more time to play with, but a under 5 minute, made for essentially TV match. Not necessarily the worst way to open the card. So especially for 2 nights worth of wrestling and a lot of people trying to get matches in on the biggest card of the year, basically. Well, size-wise, biggest card of the year. After the FBI warning, the show opens with a statement from Stephanie McMahon. Total teleprompter job by her, but explains current circumstances pretty well. They, again, did not refer to the COVID-19 crisis by name until the Drew McIntyre documentary that aired right after Night 1 went off the air tonight. So again, I guess COVID-19 is like hospital. You don't say that in WWE vernacular. You say medical facility, and you say current circumstances in amongst the world. Weird, I know. There was an awesome video package with all of the WrestleMania America the Beautiful performances, and then Johnny Depp remixes the intro, and we rock out to some AC/DC again. They must have got a bulk deal on the library. We then go up to King Corbin's murder podium up in the Performance Center, and all of a sudden we have the Gronk, Rob Gronkowski. He welcomes us and does Gronk things on the podium. I know that sounds dirty, but anyway. The women's tag team match opens things up. It is Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss taking on the champions, the Kabuki Warriors, JBL and Michael Cole on the show now. And this is an interbrand matchup with, Bliss and Cross, as I call them, the Starbucks Express, taking on, they're from SmackDown, and the Kabuki Warriors are from Raw. 2 count from a Tree of Woe, double stomp by Kairi on Alexa, and also this match had really decent psychology with the Kabukis going after Alexa's head injury and her history of concussions and that stuff. Asuka snaps on the Asuka lock on Nikki, but Alexa hits the Twisted Bliss to break up the submission. That was an insane spot. A Doomsday insane elbow only lands 2 for the Kabuki Warriors. That was really crazy. And the finish, the Twisted Bliss by Alexa Bliss, leads to new tag champions, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. Finally, get back to the top of the mountain, and they are the reigning women's tag team champions in 1505. And the match itself kind of dragged at some paces during this, but again, without the live crowd, the matches seem a little bit longer to me, and you don't get that real... that real kick of live whatever. And, you're missing that element. But it kind of allows you to focus more on what's happening in the ring. You're not distracted by, green shirt guy at ringside and that stuff. So, I don't know. It's kind of a 50-50 toss whether I like this or not at this point. Next contest, Baron Corbin, King Corbin taking on Elias. Of course, Corbin thinks he's dispatched Elias from throwing him from the murder podium a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown. But Elias shows up, and Jeff Jarrett's a guitar over Corbin's head. Yeah, he's honky-tonk, man, that thing way over on his back. It wasn't over the head, thank God. It wasn't a head chop. It was on the back, but... that got things going. A real brutal stun gun attempt by Corbin on Elias only lands 2, but was just the way that Corbin made it look just was like, wow, that was, and the way Elias sold it, kudos to both those guys. They really threw it out there. But the pacing was a little bit too slow. It felt like weekly television pacing, not WrestleMania pacing. It seemed dead, and that gets magnified tenfold in an empty venue like that. But Elias gets the free off of a roll-up, and that was in 9 minutes itself. Again, snooze fest, but out of that match, I wasn't really expecting much, honestly, out of that. Next contest was for the WWE Raw Women's Title. Becky Lynch taking on Shayna Baszler. Tom Phillips and Byron Saxon, and of course, Byron Saxon wearing just the loudest suit of all time on the call for WrestleMania. Becky Big Rig, she shows up in the big truck outside, and the man shows up. And the match starts hot, and Becky snaps a Hurricane Rana on the outside. And she also lands a rock bottom on the apron by Becky onto Shayna. This is the strongest that any one of Shayna's opponents have looked against her since Shayna has jumped to WWE through the Mae Young Classic in NXT and even on the main roster. So, it gives the Becky Lynch fans out there the hope that, hey, she could retain, right? But, of course, Baszler just goes into the submission buzzsaw sequence, hits an armbar, rolls into Becky's disarmor, proving that, hey, I can do your finish as well. No submission off of it. But the finish of the match, Baszler locks onto Karafuda clutch, but the man rolls her up for a 1-2-3, and Becky Lynch retains the Raw Women's title. That is a major surprise. I'm shocked because all signs were pointing to her dropping the title. I wonder if current circumstances right now, and maybe the fact that Maybe they've talked to Ronda Rousey, and perhaps Ronda is coming back onto the scene sometime soon, or, you know, somewhere along the line. Maybe they figured that, hey, maybe Becky has, you know, still a lot of traction left as champion, but she's going to pass the 1 year mark now if she gets through Raw on Monday with the Raw Women's title. And on this kind of current trajectory right now with all the major promotions, there aren't that many 1 year champions, 1 year plus champions that are out there. So I think that this run with the belt might even go longer than this. Heck, we might be even talking about her, you know, walking into next year's Mania with the Raw Women's title. So it's one of those things. But again, got to get through Raw on Monday with the belt before we really think that, hey, she's going to do the long-term run here. But I was totally surprised. I thought that if there was any match coming up this year that she would drop the title, it would be to Shayna Baszler, the way they were building Baszler up to be this buzzsaw up, you know, through the weeks and months ahead. But Becky Lynch retains. The WWE Intercontinental title, Daniel Bryan taking on Sami Zayn. And I love Sami's new Titantron. So much outside interference in this match. It's unreal from the Artist Collective and Drew Gulak. It was just insane. They eventually throw out the Artist Collective. Gulak's allowed to go at ringside. I lulled at the let him go spot that Bryan was saying to Drew, saying, hey, you've taught me a lot. Now I'm going to teach you something. I'm going to take care of this guy in the ring. I'll let him go. And Drew was like, all right, you know, let him go. And he basically held the ropes open for Sami to get back in there. You know, shades of heel Bryan shining through in this thing too. Like we said, I thought we were going to see the I have till 5 American Dragon at some points in this thing, because just a maniacal Daniel Bryan showed up during this. Gulak though got jumped again by ringside by the Collective when it came back out. Nakamura and Cesaro, and the finish, the Helluva Kick by Sami from a flying Daniel Bryan in the ring. It looks like he was going for either a diving headbutt or a crossbody, but Sami nails him with the Helluva Kick in midair. I think just the angle that they caught it at, it probably looked a little bit more impressive on maybe a different camera angle. I don't want to say in person because obviously no crowd, but you know, just I think kind of shot the camera shot that showed up in the edit of the match really didn't, you know, give it that pop. I think they were going for that Orton Rollins WrestleMania 31 curve stomp RKO type thing, and it really didn't translate. So 1, 2, 3, and Sami retains the Intercontinental title, and the runtime for that one is 9 minutes and 20 seconds. A really quality match for the two of them. It's amazing. Two guys that I watched in the tape trading days in Generico and American Dragon are, you know, still at it in 2020 and still giving us quality matches. So even if they are somewhat edited now for TV to try to fit into a 3-hour, you know, quote unquote night one, still amazing. It was pretty good. The SmackDown Live Triple Threat Ladder match was next, and there was some changes here. This was supposed to be a tag team Triple Threat Ladder match, but as we learned on SmackDown earlier this week, well, on Friday, but again, storyline going into this match, The Miz ends up getting injured. So, you know, changing some things on the fly, maybe some changes, you know, government-wise between days that they shot this and whatever, that regarding this certain amount of people that can be in the building at the same time, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, the Triple Threat Tag Team match becomes a Triple Threat Captain's Ladder match with a member of each team going after the tag team belts in a very unique contest. You had Kofi Kingston take on John Morrison versus Jimmy Uso, and I like this at first, I love this adaptation of around the injury and the storyline, so it becomes a triangle ladder. Kingston, though, almost ends it early because he has his hand on one of the belts while Uso and Morrison are fighting, and he had to tap one of them on the shoulder, being like, guys, you know, I'm going to grab this. You can fight all day, but I'm about to win this thing. You know, so maybe a small botch that they kept in there. I'm not exactly sure why that was. I just found it very awkward more than anything else. Morrison hits Starship Pain later in the match while Uso was on the ladder. Without the crowd, it lacked the usual ladder, the pop that ladder matches typically have, especially at an event like WrestleMania. That was a card in the past that made these matches, famous going forward. And it's pretty awkward, somewhat sad at times, and that's stuff watching this being like, oh man, if this was in a stadium filled with people would be going nuts right about now. Could you imagine what they'd be doing? So on and so forth. Some interesting ladder play between Morrison and Kingston. Both these guys, of course, are the guys that come up with mind-boggling Royal Rumble spots every year, so, no surprise there. A freeway chicken fight for the belts, and that ends as Morrison comes off the ladder with the belts, and Miz and Morrison retain. The runtime on that one is 18:30, and again, it didn't really translate well. It looked good on paper, but one of those things that really didn't translate well, but none of those guys, that's not their fault. Lack of pop and lack of live audience really to get it through that caused that. That's nothing to be held against the performers in any way. Next match, though, we'll call it the real life match of the night. The match in the RL that was match of the night for sure. Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins, and Seth's gear is amazing here. He kind of comes out in a white, almost popol type, holy man type outfit. The Monday Night Messiah has arrived. Kevin's KO Mania shirt is a bee's knees as well. It's a takeoff of the WrestleMania 4-hour spectacular poster from way back when. Go check that out in the store if you haven't had a chance to. Backdrop on the apron by Rollins. That I hate those apron spots. You know how much I hate those spots. Seeing those guys go for that. It's a very hard hitting affair, but also a very entertaining encounter at that time. And then I thought it stopped dead when Rollins hits Owen with the ring bell. The ref calls for a DQ, and Owen's music plays, and I was like, oh no, they were just starting to get going in this thing, and all of a sudden there's a finish, and that's it. Post-match, though, Owen says it ain't over like this, says let's go, no DQ, no rules, plays to Seth's ego. Seth accepts, and the match restarts, and I'm like, great, we can see these guys really get uncorked now and see what happens. Owens is bludgeoned by the steps outside, and then Owens hits Rollins with the bell twice, puts him on the announce table, and we wonder what's happening. And then one of the moments of the night, but the real life moment of the night, we'll put it that way, Owens climbs the WrestleMania sign, which was awkwardly but yet awesomely put inside the Performance Center. The thing takes up an entire wall of the Performance Center, but it's there. And elbow drops Rollins through the announce table from that height. Probably had to have been about maybe 15 feet or so above the table. It was a spectacular visual. If you see it online, gift or gift, it's probably going to be in the WrestleMania trailer from here on out. Every year that they promote the event, it's shot in such a way where you don't see any crowd at all or anything, so you can use it over and over again, and it's an incredible visual. It's great. They roll Rollins back in, stunner, and Owens beats Rollins, putting an end to Seth Rollins' little modest WrestleMania winning streak he had happening over the past few WrestleMania appearances that he has had. And that match was 17 minutes and 20 seconds. Again, match of the night for sure, hands down. Not the best thing on this card, but match of the night. R-Truth then interrupts a Rob Gronkowski, a.k.a. Gronk, host segment. Mojo Rawley rolls up R-Truth for a pin and 24/7 title change, but Gronk wanted to get the pin on R-Truth and was thrown off by Mojo. Mojo has the 24/7 title. This will be continued on tonight too, but there's a rift between Rob Gronkowski and Mojo Rawley, so could we see Gronk potentially in a ring tomorrow night on WrestleMania on night 2? Wait to be seen. We are then showing a rundown of what night 2 will look like tomorrow night. Again, same start time, same deal, same outlets. whatever you use to get to tonight's card. So Fiend Cena goes tomorrow night, Edge Orton, Otis and Dolph Ziggler, Aleister Black, Bobby Lashley, the Women's SmackDown title, Fatal 5-Way, the Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair match for the NXT Women's title, the Raw Tag title is on the line, which is Street Profits versus now Angel Garza and Austin Fury, which makes him... I don't recall somebody at his age, at 22, making a WrestleMania appearance, a week after he's debuted on the main roster. Like, this is quicker than Randy Orton pacing right now. This is, they're loading up their future behind this kid for the next 10 years or so. So we'll see what happens. And Drew McIntyre, Brock Lesnar, of course, for the WWE title. We'll have more on Fury tomorrow night and every one of those matches after tomorrow night's WrestleMania card, night 2. The WWE Universal title was on the line next. Goldberg taking on the replacement for Roman Reigns, who, because he's immunocompromised, cannot basically leave his house at this point. So I feel really bad for the guy. In steps in Braun Strowman, opportunity knocks, plucked out of the Intercontinental title feud that he had with the Artist Collective on SmackDown and put into the Universal title main event against Goldberg. Goldberg walks out of WWE Performance Center's shipping and receiving wing. This will be a short match, hopefully, and it is. There are free spears, one after another by Goldberg, but Strowman keeps getting up. And then free power slams to Goldberg from Strowman, and a running power slam, and Strowman wins the Universal title. Kind of a polarizing decision, just due to the fact of Strowman's recent comments on social media regarding independent talent and wrestlers that are missing out on the WrestleMania week payday from the abundance of independent shows that happen in the WrestleMania city over WrestleMania week leading up to the big card on Sunday, typically. Well, it would have been one giant card on Sunday, but they've split it this year. So actually winning the title, winning a Universal title, and being the face of a brand is good for Strowman at this point, because it'll teach him that maybe to kind of curtail his posts a little bit on social media, watch how he presents himself a little bit. He's still young in the business, so but he is not afraid to speak his mind at all, which is awesome to see. But I did not agree at all with his comments towards the independent talents and independent contractors and wrestlers that are looking to make a payday over WrestleMania week, because man, that's a huge opportunity for a lot of talent, and that's how a lot of talent ends up getting discovered, is over these WrestleMania week super shows and that stuff. So it's a polarizing thing, but I think it's for the better company wise that Strowman is the Universal Champion. Obviously Goldberg was just a short-term get to Mania type opponent for either Roman or whoever for the Universal title. And now that that's done, Braun Strowman, Universal Champion. Finally, they put the rocket to him. It took him long enough too. Jeez. The runtime for that match was 2 minutes and 10 seconds as well. So again, nice and short. The final thing we've seen on night 1 is probably the most polarizing thing in wrestling this year in 2020. It was the Boneyard match between The Undertaker and AJ Styles. And this is shot cinematically. This is shot final deletion style, if you are familiar with that. It is shot ultimate deletion style. Again, I would think that Giancarlo Dietmo and Jeremy Borash had a hand in doing this, as they were kind of the two people that kind of spearheaded the ultimate deletion, I think it was, in WWE with Woken Matt and Bray Wyatt a few years ago. And of course, Borash was the guy working hand in hand with Hardy with the original concept of Broken Matt and these kind of cinematic encounters that show up on weekly wrestling television and on pay-per-view, so on and so forth. The tag team Apocalyptos and stuff like that. Kind of along the same line is this one. it is 35 minutes of awesome. It is The Walking Dead meets Sons of Anarchy. It is just a cinematic fight for 35 minutes, and it's cheesy and glorious at the same time. It deserves a Canon film logo at the end of it. It is so bad it is good, or it is so good it is bad, whatever you want to call it, whatever your terminology is. If there's one thing you watch out of this card, it's the Boneyard match. If there's two things you watch out of this card, it's the Boneyard match and then the Rollins Owens match from tonight, because those were both spectacular. But to end night one with that, 5 stars, standing ovation. Definitely one of the greatest things I've seen in wrestling in a long time, and definitely my high point, my favorite bit from this WrestleMania card so far. And that puts a wrap on night one. Alright, so out of 10, my thoughts on night number 1. And I tried to think back to Wrestle Kingdom, because Wrestle Kingdom was a 2-night show as well this year, how I did that. And I think I gave a score for both nights off of that. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to give WrestleMania night 1 a 7 out of 10. Again, a lot of the stuff was fairly routine, fairly kind of, not very flashy. I think Corbin and Elias was snoozy. The women's tag belts was, kind of, it didn't really move the needle for me at that much. The ladder match, same deal, didn't really move the needle for me. But, the shock surprise result of Becky retaining the title over Baszler was good. Rollins and Owens, I loved that match. That was awesome. That was match of the night, in my opinion. And in the Boneyard match, I am a huge fan of. I will watch it again. It was just incredible. I love that. That was just... And if that's a taste of what Fiend Cena will be like in his Firefly Funhouse match tomorrow, the cinematic, it's a TV show. It's not a wrestling match. Then, hey, boys, have at her. This is awesome. So, the most important thing out of this is that everybody is staying safe and most of all entertained by this. And this was a entertaining 3-hour show. It wasn't WrestleMania. It just had the WrestleMania name to it. But it was a 3-hour show. If this was another like B pay-per-view, like this, say this was like Fastlane or Extreme Rules or something like that, I would say, hey, this was a great pay-per-view and well worth it and that's it. But just slapping the WrestleMania name on it because it's WrestleMania time of year doesn't really work here. It lacks the spectacle of the live crowd and that stuff. So that's just my opinion of it. But I'm geared up. I'm ready to see night 2. I'm excited to see what will happen tomorrow night off of that. And I'm into it now. So put your comments below. What did you think of night 1? And reach out on Twitter and let me know. I'm Killer Nitro. Later days. Happy wrestling watching. And we'll see you next time on Nitromaniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited. In fact, we'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. How about that?